back here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Matt Hatfield here, the coach Ed Young, Richie Somerville as well. And Ed, the news, we would be talking about high school football games from last night. We'd be talking about games such as Lancetown and Salem and our buddy from Smithfield, Keith, and the Packers taking on Kings Fork, and just so many games across the region that would have been taking place last night were not due to COVID-19, and we know they're going to go ahead with a planned schedule that would begin, at least this is their tentative plan right now for football. The first practice can take place for football there on the 4th of February. The first contest, the 22nd of February. It'll be cold outside. Yeah, it will be. And then you're going to have the region playoffs beginning April the 7th. The deadline for football, April the 17th. State semifinals, April the 24th. And your state championship games on May the 1st. And it should be nice weather for that. We won't have snow or really cold weather for that, you would think, for this year's or this coming season's, I should say, state football championships. And this past week, there was, the questions about how they're going to do some things. Would it get delayed? I was hearing from some athletic directors they might delay a decision on that until September. But word I got was Dr. Hahn, Billy Hahn, the executive director, he took over for Ken Tilley a couple years ago. He was adamant about let's get this out there. Let's go ahead full steam with this. And I know you've put in some calls to Tom Dolan of the VHSL, getting him on the program here in the coming weeks. And we hope to do so to discuss some of these things more in depth with them. But the VHSL has released how they're going to do things, and it's going to be 2 rounds of regional playoffs in football. So kind of going back to the old 8 from 4. We've discussed this many a times on all the various programs, whether it be on the High School Sports Talk or the High School Football Scoreboard Show and so forth. We didn't like years ago where we'd have a 9-1 Deep Creek or a Kempsville miss the playoffs. But at the same token, we don't like having these 2-8 and 3-7 teams getting in the postseason. I've always kind of felt you split the baby and you go 6. You give the 1 and 2 seeds a bye, kind of like the NFL does, and that you kind of get that better ground. Because this year, Danny Dodson he's been adamant on this program. He's been adamant in the newspaper about it. Woodside was 9-1 this past year, had one of the best teams in the area, and they were the 5th seed going to the 4th seed in Princess Anne, who was 8-2 due to the playoff ratings. Right now with that, and we'll tackle the basketball and other sports here as we move along. And if you want to hop in on the conversation, you can do so at 757-687-9494. Hit us up on the Twitter feed. Again, you can do so on Twitter at 757 Sports Talk. Ed, we know for football now it's going to be a 6-game season, 1 less round of the playoffs for football. Are you okay with it, or do you have a problem? And I'm just kind of judging. It doesn't seem like you're totally okay with it over there.
Well, I'm too much a traditionalist. I want to see regular season. I want to see playoffs with more teams having a chance to get in, and we whittle down to the best. But I understand under the situation, that's not going to happen.
Right.
So what's the alternative? Nothing? We don't like that. But I will say this. I don't want to see anybody put in danger just for the sake of entertainment. Now, I know when we talk high school sports, it's giving the kids that outlet. It's so important for kids that are performing, in, not just in sports, but extracurricular activities. It helps tremendously in their academics, tremendously. And without that carrot there, it could be very detrimental to some kids' academics. So for that reason alone, I say we have to play. But at the same time, we don't want to put anybody in danger that gets the COVID, that has an underlying situation that makes it worse, and we end up losing people who die from it, coaches, whatever. So we can't have that. I can live with the 6 games. It's going to make every game in football like a playoff game. You lose, 2 games? You lose your first 2 games, you're probably done in terms of playoffs. And you still got 4 games to play. So it just puts a premium on the regular season, which a lot of people say it's the way it should be.
Now, here's the part, Richie, that Ed will not love here. Under what the league is calling its championship plus 1 format, teams that do not advance to regional tournaments, this can be in football, basketball, any sport, can schedule another game as long as it's completed by the deadline for region playoffs. So this past year, you were the last team out in the region basketball tournament. The year before, you lost on that half-court shot to the green run in the regional semis by the late, great Ashley James. So this year, you could have scheduled another game. Do you like this, or do you say this is dumb?
I'm kind of surprised at myself. My first answer should be yes, I'm going to play as many as we can. But in all reality, why? Okay, you get to the point in the season, you lose a game, we can't make the playoffs. But guess what, guys? We're still going to find somebody to play in a game next week. Y'all for that. I just have a feeling the players will be looking at you like, what? We just lost out on going for a chance for the title, and we're just going to play a game for what reason? Just to have a game. Now, it might be a big rivalry game that you want to play somebody if we're going to have fans, that it's going to make the athletic program a little bit of money, something of that nature. But I just can't grasp it and say I like it. My reaction is no, I don't like it.
See, I thought when they were going with this +1 format that the idea might be to have a bowl-type setup for those that didn't, and you could generate revenue off of that. And that doesn't seem to be what they're exploring, which they previously were open to and had commented even publicly that, hey, we're open to this idea. We might do the bowl format, particularly if they could not have a postseason. From what I'm gathering, a lot of people out west were totally against it. They wanted to have a postseason, yet they're going to do this +1. And I'm like you, if there was something on the line for it. I don't know what's on the line for doing a +1 if there's nothing there at stake. If it's not like you're winning some kind of trophy or there's something that's being done from a revenue standpoint for it, because quite honestly, I don't know how many people are going to be able to go to a game or won't even go to the game, let alone be able to, for a 3-7 playing a 4-6 potentially. I guess it wouldn't be that many games this year. It'd be like maybe a 2-4 playing a 3-3.
Yeah, if you're going to allow that, you might as well just add the 4 more teams and just let 8 teams go into playoffs instead of just 4.
Well, I think because of the calendar not having enough weeks is why they also
what do you do?
off.
You have to add 1 more week. Okay.
And they don't want as much overlap given where things are with sports because,
And I get that. And I understand that because you want to try to get everybody in, give everybody some space to get something in. I get that. But that championship +1 format, I'm just not grasping it.
And for basketball, it's going to be a maximum number of contests of 14. Now, remember, they had previously stated a few weeks ago that the first contest could take place the week after Christmas. Now they're saying the first practice, December 7th. I hate to break it to all you. There's going to be teams practicing before December 7th if they aren't ready, but hey, that's either here or there.
Practicing now.
First contest, though, first allowed official contest will be December 21st, so that Monday before Christmas. The regionals would begin on February the 8th. The deadline had to be the 13th. The VHSL semifinals, the 16th. The finals, the 20th. You say, wait, what happened to the quarterfinals? Quarterfinals gone for this year. So that means the region championship is the game to get in. So think about this past year. We had a couple of local matchups for region finals, like in Class 4, Woodrow Wilson out of Portsmouth and Kings Fork. They met in the final. Kings Fork won. They were going to meet again in the state championship that got canceled due to coronavirus. Co-champs, Wilson would not have made it. This past year in Class 5, that epic double overtime game with Green Run and Norview. Norview would have been out. They would not have gotten a chance to have a rematch with Green Run in the state finals. They didn't get that chance anyway due to the pandemic. Nonetheless, only one team going from each region. My thing with that is, and I'm not crazy about it, I get it, the regions, this is where they have to really, the regions are not balanced, and we're going to have too many regions that just cannot compare with our region and other regions in certain sports, and we won't be able to compare with other regions and other sports too. And I feel like you're going to really miss out on some teams that could have won a state championship. I mean, this year, even in the 2-team format, people argued a Menchfield team out of Class 4, Lamont Struthers' team, was good enough to make a state run, and they certainly were. They lost to Kings Fork on a buzzer beater in the regional semifinals. That happens in sports. You can't take everybody, but taking it down from 2 teams going to 1, it puts a bigger emphasis and spotlight on that region final, though you could lose out on some teams that were very, very much capable of winning the state championship.
Yeah, that's a we see these every year where a team's region's number 3 team is better than somebody else's 2 or even a potential 1. But it's the way the system is, so you can't degrade those other regions. They have to put people forward too. You can't just sit back and say, well, Region D, you're not as good as Region A. Tidewater is very strong, so you're only going to bring 1 team this year. It's not fair to them either. So I understand that. It's the only way you take care of that maybe is you add teams. Maybe not every region sends 8. Maybe this region sends 8, 1 sends 6, 1 sends 4. It's probably the only way you do it. But even then, you can't do it way ahead of time. You have to do it like the NCAA does it when they invite teams to the tournament. It's not designated exactly who's coming. It's just what kind of year did you have? And I don't see Virginia High School League ever doing it that way.
As always, we put up questions of the day and polls on our 757 Sports Talk feed. And since we're talking about high school basketball, and we know college basketball is not too far off in the distance. It's part of our question of the day, and Richie Somerville brings us that today on our 757 Sports Talk Twitter feed. We've also got a poll up there. So what's it looking like up there, Richie?
You have to give me another minute here,
No
I
problem.
think, to accommodate myself. Ed, I'm like with you. I'm not with this Twitter thing as of yet.
I'm getting closer to getting on Twitter. I haven't announced it yet, but I'm looking at it hard and I'm doing some research.
He won't let me do the fake Ed Young Twitter page, like the Tony Bennett, the phony Bennett. We can't do. He won't let us do that. His people have talked to my people, and they said that I'll be behind those metal bars, and I don't want to do that just yet.
Is this the Big Ten question?
Well, you can give us both of those. Actually, you can give us that one and the question of the day before that. But you can give us both if you've got them pulled up there on the 757 Sports Talk Twitter feed.
All right, let me go with that one first
ahead.
and try to see if my headphones don't stop leaking here and creating a bunch of feedback. The Big Ten is considering a football schedule that would start Thanksgiving weekend. Do you think that will happen? Right now, we have no leading the way at 69%, with yes at 31%.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Ed. You said during break you thought it would.
I thought it would, but I'm telling you, that's a flu season, and I think that's when a lot of things are going to get halted. And plus, it's right after Thanksgiving. Now, basketball usually has some things right at Thanksgiving, but I don't know. Starting out football there, I'm not sure.
Well, what you don't want to happen if you're the Big Ten is you get to late October, November, everything's going great in other conferences, and you're the one looking there not having it. Now, they erred on the side of caution. We know the Big Ten and the Pac-12 are the two of the Power 5 that didn't. Part of me says it will, but, I think they want to wait, kind of like we talked about with Pete Medhurst, see how this Austin Peay game goes tonight and see kind of how the first week and a half before they proceed forward with this plan of definitely executing, or at least trying to execute, a Thanksgiving weekend start.
Did I see right? Central Arkansas not only plays today, they're going to play Thursday against UAB.
I think that's right. They play again. It's a quick turnaround, which is surprising.
It's kind of, especially, with everything going on, it's kind of nuts to be playing two games inside of 5 days when you've got all the flexibility in the weekends.
To that point, the VHSL, by the way, to football, they're going to let their first contest be the 22nd of February, and then the second week is slated to be, and that's going to be, I think, a Monday night, if I'm not mistaken, here for February the 22nd for high school football. In our state it is. Then your second game is going to be Saturday the 27th. That's a 5-day. That's to me. That's Ed. The NFL guys and college guys don't do that very often. That's a really, really quick turnaround.
Well, again, just trying to squeeze some stuff in because things are not normal. So we're going to do not normal things. But again, that all can change in a matter of days, if not months. You just don't know. But again, people's health, number one.
Our man Reese Becker says, by the way, Hatfield Sports has revealed that Coach Ed Young is close to committing to Twitter. Would be a huge pickup. There you go. Big pickup. What else we got?
I could be bought. No, bribed.
You could be bribed?
Can't say bought. That don't sound right. I could be bribed.
Okay. Now, your question of the day on at 757 Sports Talk. Do you think a bubble concept can work for college and or high school basketball?
I think it can probably work better for college basketball, particularly as we get to an NCAA tournament. You maybe have 4 sites where you put them in for the opening round and you do it that way. High school basketball, Ed, boy, that just seems like it's, I wouldn't say impossible, but very hard to pull off.
I'll say impossible.
You will say impossible.
Can't do it in high school.
Well, you say it's impossible. However, somebody's going to try to make it possible. As our own Rivals.com recently put out a story, I say Rivals.com because they're our parent company at VirginiaPreps.com, that there are some high school programs in the state here, before we go to break, I'll read this to you, that are planning to do a bubble. The programs earlier this week, West Oaks has got a potential for this as well. There's a number of states, Arizona, California, Florida, Georgia, that has some of its prominent prep teams, if you will, that are trying to make this happen for the upcoming 2020-2021 campaign for high school hoops. So I guess we'll find out how this works off with how this goes off with Arizona, California, Florida, and Georgia that are attempting to form a handful of bubbles.
Okay, now correct me if I'm wrong. Here's what I'm thinking bubble is. You bring X amount of teams, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, into one location. You house those kids in hotels, 1 or 2 hotels. Nobody goes nowhere. Nobody plays anywhere but there. Your food is catered in. You got a lot of movies to watch. Will never happen on a high school level. Now, prep, it's a different ballgame. Prep school is a different ballgame. They're mostly have a prep school for one reason only, because of basketball, not academics, and they can get money involved. Nike, Under Armour. There's some dirty money that gets exchanged between prep schools and some of the big boys, including colleges, and don't let me have to name names. So, yeah, and in that case, sure, it can happen. Regular high school will never happen.
So you're just saying it's not in your eyes, high school, it's more of a post-grad than really, even though it's not technically post-grad, it's a prep.
That I could see maybe, but regular high school team, put them all in the hotels, nah. Who's paying for it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very, very hard to execute and pull off. It's going to be extremely, extremely difficult. In fact, one of our Twitter reactions to that was, in fact, Nick Popejoy, who tweeted at us to be able to get all the conferences to work together when even conference members can't agree. Yeah, good luck, LOL. So,
well, even Calipari talked about John Calipari, Kentucky coach, bubble on the college level, where he was saying you have your tournaments like Maui Invitational, all that kind of stuff. So bring in more teams, and then everybody plays over the course of 4 or 5 days, even a week. They would play different opponents, and then maybe the next weekend you go maybe in another bubble somewhere. Okay. That's fine because those schools might be able to pay for that, or somebody's going to sponsor it. You would get a lot of games in doing it. Now you're going to be playing a lot. You're going to be very limited practice. It'll be like NBA, but for that to go to the high school level, never going to happen.
We'll finish up with one more segment here on this edition of 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Phone lines remain open at 757-687-9494 right here on ESPN Radio 94.1.